know nothing, so I feel stupid all the time, or I act as if very presumptuous, pretentious people that pretend to know everything. The rebel we already talked about. If there's a rebellion, there has to be a prison. That's the 0 to 100. The sage, someone who's constantly seeking and seeking and seeking and seeking, never gets enough, and usually what happens with the sage or the seeker is that they never stop seeking, so they never sit still to realize they already have the answers within. One of the most interesting things that happened to me, because I have that archetype, is when I was first on my sort of like learning about my spiritual gifts, and everybody has spiritual gifts. They're called the clairs. There's 5 clairs. We all have them all. Depends on how much you have them developed. So I was, going around trying to figure out what they were and taking classes and things like that. And I went to this place and I got this reading and it sucked. And it was expensive. And my husband picks me up and he's like, "So?" And I said, "Well, it was the best thing that ever happened and the worst thing that ever happened." I'm like, the worst because it sucked and it cost us a lot of money. But the best because I could stop looking now. What I have is real shit. And at that point, this does not mean that I don't read and study and things like that. It's that seeking and seeking and seeking. I don't need to know every myth and every character and the name of every trickster. I know Greek. I got myself covered. I could open a book and say, "Oh wait, I don't know, let me Google it." That constant. So that tends to be the 0 to 100 with people that are in that. With the magician, the secrets and not wanting to be exposed or figured out can keep you from living in the world fully because you're afraid of being found out or you're afraid that someone might figure something out. So you keep your gifts even secret because of the fear that maybe I'm not good enough or maybe I'm not, doing it right, and then you keep yourself very encapsulated. So that's the 0 to 100. Did I miss any that you guys got of the 0 to 100?
What is the, I just want to know, what are the other ones? What is the Capricorn?
Okay, so Capricorn tends to be like the wise old man. It is a sage type, but it's not a sage that is like seeking. It's a sage that's much more in silence. So the 0 to the 100, it could be absolutely the ruler, yeah. The problem with that person or that 0 to 100 archetype is that it's very lonely. There can be a lot of melancholy and depression. They are wise, but if you're isolated, whereas this sage seeker is not isolated. Woo! Let's have a party. Everyone come over. Let me teach you. Okay. This is a sign of duality. The twins. This is everybody. We all have Gemini. We all have some duality. But here usually is these people that are like hot and cold or all or none, very drastic, extremes, a bipolar type person. So we can see where she has that stuff. Taurus tends to be very slow and steady, and that's good, the patience of that kind of thing. But what the drawback is, no change, no movement. Yeah, that type of person to make a change. My mother took 52, I don't think she wanted to divorce my dad the whole 52 years, but I'm saying it's like.
What happens when you're a person that changes all the time?
Okay, that tends to be more of Aries, and that also has a lot to do with the rebel and the seeker. Because it's like there's something better on the other side. There's something better, there's something better. That could also be the creator.
If you've known me my whole life, you'll know that I do not like things for too long.
Okay, well, there's psychological reasons. I'm going to leave it before it leaves me. That could be one reason for that. There's always a reason. That's where the story and the questions as a therapist come in. You know, so I would ask.
I just like new.
Right, because the tradition, this is a very, did you get any of this?
Yes.
Okay. That contradicts what she's saying. This is a person that usually wants a lot of tradition, that wants roots, that wants family,
Yeah,
like Jeanette.
That I like.
Okay? So it contradicts
I just
the
like
fact that you want new. So this is a perfect example of how the eyes work.
I just change my furniture every 3 months, and I love to move, but I finally stopped. 3 years ago, I finally, like, that's it, I don't want to move no more, because I've moved. I've gone to over 26 different schools in my life, and I've lived in over 50, I think it was 58 that we wrote down places in my life.
Since we all have all of these, part of her has the boob, the caretaker, but then part of her has, let's say, the rebel that doesn't want any roots. These are contradictory. That means that those are areas of conflict in your life. That's what the chart helps us see. When you hear a client say, I don't want to live, I want to die, I'm fed up, life has just, kicked me to the ground, but I'm going to publish a book next week.
No, that's crazy.
Doesn't that sound contradictory?
That sounds like crazy.
Okay? That's where we get conflict. And that's why we all think we're crazy. That's why a Hindu tradition with many gods explains that you have all of this. Whereas one God that is unified doesn't fucking think of moving one day, dying the other, rebelling now, structure tomorrow.
That's true.
That's why understanding the aspects of God through these stories, through these myths, helps to calm the conflict.
Yeah.
And you're normal.
Because me, my husband, and my kids, we love change. Like, we love moving everything around, doing everything different all the time.
But you're normal because you also like tradition and game nights and everybody on the couch and all the kids together. And that is, just to tie up, because we're out of time, we're understanding the gods that live within us, the archetypes, another word for gods, help us to say, oh, I'm just a little bit of everything. I'm a little green, I'm a little blue, and you'll see the colors of the chakras on Tuesday. We're a little bit of all colors of the rainbow.
That's what we were saying.
The rainbow is not one color.
We're all
It's
that.
one thing with 7 colors. Why are we any different? We are one person
We're all of that stuff.
with all these archetypes, with all these gods, with all these pieces. All of a sudden, you're crazy and you're crazy and you're crazy and you're crazy and you're crazy. It's just normal. It's just being human.
But it doesn't make sense.
That's what I got.
I'm glad because I was like, I can't just be those 3. Because
No,
everything.
no, you have it all.
Because you're saying these things, I'm like,
No, you have it all. I just wanted to pick out,
I
because
get
I
it.
want to keep that paper, because when we do your chart, I want to see how you have sun, moon, and ascendant, or if you have something major that pops out, because you picked that, because that's something that resonates.
Yeah.
So we just keep building and building. Yes, take your picture, and we will stop
And you
this.
said Aries was what?
Well, that's